Today, we're going treasure hunting in Istanbul. Hi everyone, you're watching City Walks Global and we're heading to the famous Feriköy Antique Market to see what kind of hidden gems we can find there. My journey starts on the Üsküdar side of the city. First, I take a ferry across the Bosphorus. It's a short ride and a few minutes later, I'm already on the European side. I get off in Beşiktaş, one of the busiest districts in Istanbul. The area is always full of people, cafes, small shops, and street vendors. From Beşiktaş, I continue part of the journey by bus. The ride isn't very long, but as we move through the city, the neighborhoods slowly start to change. The streets become quieter. The last part of the journey is on foot. Walking through these ordinary city streets, it's hard to imagine that just a few minutes away there's one of the most famous antique markets in Istanbul. But then suddenly, the market appears. The Feriköy Antique Market takes place every Sunday in the Şişli district and is considered one of the largest antique markets in Istanbul. As you walk inside, the first thing you notice is the crowd. People slowly move between the rows of tables, carefully looking at objects, asking prices, and sometimes negotiating with the sellers. The market itself has an interesting history. It originally started decades ago when local residents began selling old family items and heirlooms. Over time, it slowly grew into one of the most famous places in Istanbul for vintage objects and collectibles. Looking around, you start to notice just how many different things are here. Every table seems to tell its own story, objects from different decades, sometimes even from different countries. Old household items stand next to forgotten gadgets, vintage decorations, and strange little objects that make you wonder what they were originally used for. Some things look ordinary at first glance, but when you look closer, you realize they may be 30, 40, sometimes even 50 years old. One of the first things that really catches the eye here is the collection of old clocks. There are pocket watches, mechanical desk clocks, wall clocks, and small travel clocks that people used decades ago. Many of them were made long before smartphones existed, when watches and clocks were the main way people kept track of time. Some still tick quietly, their mechanisms still working after decades. Others are more like decorative pieces now, objects that carry a bit of history with them. Nearby, you can see collections of cups and porcelain dishes, many of them decorated with delicate patterns and traditional motifs. Some of these designs were once common in homes decades ago, but today they look almost like small pieces of art. Another section is filled with jewelry and accessories. Many of these pieces are handmade, created by artisans years ago, and some of them may be decades old. That's what makes them interesting. Many of these items are truly unique. You probably won't see the same piece anywhere else. For collectors, finding something like that can feel like discovering a small treasure. There are also stands dedicated to collectibles. For example, you can find collections of postage stamps, sometimes organized carefully in old albums. Nearby, there are tables with coins from different countries and different periods, small metal pieces that once passed through countless hands in everyday life. Walking further through the market, you start to notice objects that have completely disappeared from modern life. Old radios, mechanical cameras, vintage household tools. Some of them are more than 50 years old, yet they still survive here as reminders of another era. Among the tables, you could also spot handmade glass figurines, small decorative objects carefully shaped and polished. There are also many other unusual details, metal badges, vintage emblems, old pins, and strange little items whose purpose is not always immediately clear. You can find books, old electronics, cables for devices you might not even recognize anymore, and tools from another generation of technology. Some visitors come here looking for something very specific, others simply enjoy the experience of browsing through the past. Another interesting thing you can find here are unusual lamps. Some of them are handmade, others vintage industrial pieces that were once used in workshops or offices. Today, they have become decorative objects, lamps that add character and atmosphere to a room. Interestingly, the market isn't only about antiques. Sometimes you can even find anime figurines or collectibles from modern pop culture. It's a reminder that markets like this constantly evolve, mixing the past with the present. Collectors can also find die-cast model cars. Some are modern models, while others are older miniature vehicles that were once popular toys. Brands like Hot Wheels appear quite often among the collections. For music lovers, there are stands filled with vinyl records, old albums, forgotten recordings, and sometimes rare pressings that are hard to find in regular stores today. Flipping through these records feels a bit like digging through musical history. And of course, exploring the market can make you hungry. Inside the market, there are small food stands where you can take a break and try something traditional. One of the most popular snacks here is gözleme. It's simple food but perfect after walking through the market. After spending quite some time exploring the market, I leave Feriköy and start walking toward Nişantaşı. It's not very far, and the walk itself is quite interesting because the atmosphere of the city slowly begins to change. The streets become wider, the buildings look more elegant. You start seeing more cafes, boutique stores, and stylish storefronts. Soon it becomes clear that you've entered a completely different part of the city. Nişantaşı is known as one of the most fashionable districts in Istanbul. Many international luxury brands have stores here alongside well-known Turkish designers. The area is also famous for its elegant streets, historic apartment buildings, and cafes where people sit outside enjoying coffee and conversation. Walking through Nişantaşı feels very different from the busy antique market. Instead of searching through old objects, here people stroll between boutiques, meet friends in cafes, and enjoy the atmosphere of the neighborhood. So, what about today's treasure hunt? To be honest, I didn't really find a treasure this time, but that's the nature of places like this. Sometimes you discover something incredible, a rare object, a forgotten piece of history, and sometimes you simply enjoy the experience of walking through the market and seeing all these stories from the past. And honestly, that's already a pretty good reason to come here. So this is where today's walk ends, here in Nişantaşı. This was actually our first video in this kind of format, so if you enjoyed exploring Istanbul with us, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps the channel grow and lets us know that you'd like to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.